Document. Part 6. The Krill fleet arrived in Sol System, like a storm cloud rolling across the horizon. Their ships were sleek and menacing, designed for speed and destruction. The mercenaries wasted no time, launching an immediate assault on Earth's outer defenses. Human pilots scrambled to intercept them, their smaller vessels darting between the larger enemy ships like insects buzzing around giants. For humanity, this was the moment of truth, their chance to prove that they could stand against overwhelming odds. Lieutenant Kevin Foster sat in the cockpit of his experimental drone fighter, his hands gripping the controls tightly. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of enemy ships, friendly forces, and the glowing blue dome of the energy shield protecting Earth. His squadron had been assigned to patrol the edge of the system, tasked with slowing the Krill. Advance, it was a dangerous mission, but Kevin felt a strange sense of calm. He had trained for this, prepared for this, and now it was time to act. Engage at will. The voice of Captain Lisa Grant over the comms. Remember your training, stay sharp, stay alive. Kevin exhaled slowly and pushed his throttle forward. His ship surged ahead, joining the fray. Plasma bolts streaked past his canopy as he dodged incoming fire, weaving through debris fields. Left behind by earlier skirmishes, drones accompanying his squadron moved in perfect formation, artificial intelligence allowing them to react faster than any human pilot ever could. Together, they formed a deadly dance of precision and coordination. The battle quickly escalated. Krill fighters swarmed around Earth's defenders, firing relentless barrages of energy weapons. But humanity's pilots fought back with equal ferocity. Kevin targeted an enemy vessel, lining up his shot before pressing the trigger. A burst of plasma tore through the Krill ship, sending it spiraling into oblivion. Cheers erupted over the comms channel as his teammates celebrated the kill, but Kevin didn't have time to savor the victory. Another wave of enemies was already closing in. Meanwhile, aboard the orbital defense platform, Alex Monroe monitored the energy shield's performance. The massive structure hummed with power as it absorbed the first impacts from Krill artillery. Each blast rippled across the shimmering blue dome, dissipating harmlessly into the atmosphere. Alex watched the readouts intently, his heart racing. The shield was holding, but it hadn't yet been tested against a full-scale assault. General Daniel Carter stood nearby, issuing orders to the fleet commanders. His face was grim but focused as he tracked the progress of the battle. "Keep them busy," he barked into his communicator. "We need more time." Alex glanced at the general, then back at the screens, showing the chaos unfolding beyond Earth's borders. The Krill were relentless, pushing deeper into the system despite heavy resistance. Every second counted, and Alex knew that even the smallest miscalculation could spell disaster. He turned to one of the engineers. "Double-check the stabilizers," he said urgently. "I don't want any surprises if they hit us harder." The engineer nodded and hurried off, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts. He thought about everything they had sacrificed to get here, the sleepless nights, the endless hours of testing and troubleshooting. Now, it all came down to this. If the shield failed, Earth would be exposed, vulnerable to the full might of the Krill fleet. Alex clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. Failure wasn't an option. Back on Earth, President Laura Hayes watched the battle unfold from the United Nations headquarters. A large screen displayed live footage of the conflict, showing flashes of light as ships exploded in the distance. Her expression was unreadable, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of her desk. She had made the decision to resist the Senate's demands, knowing it might lead to war. Now, she bore witness to the consequences of that choice. Dr. Emily Ross entered the room quietly, carrying a tablet filled with updates from the front lines. "The shield is holding," she reported. "Our pilots are doing incredible work out there, buying us the time we need." Laura nodded, though her eyes remained fixed on the screen. "It's not enough," she said softly. "Even if we survive this attack, the Senate won't stop. They'll keep coming until they break us, or until we find a way to change their minds." Emily hesitated, unsure how to respond. She admired Laura's leadership, but she also saw the toll it was taking. The weight of responsibility was etched into every line of the president's face. "We've got options," Emily said finally. "Neutral factions are still talking. If we can hold out long enough, we might be able to turn the tide diplomatically." Laura sighed, her gaze shifting to the window overlooking New Geneva. Outside, crowds gathered in the streets, holding signs and chanting slogans. Some called for peace, others for defiance, but all shared a common hope that humanity would prevail. "Let's hope you're right," Laura murmured. "If we lose today, there won't be a tomorrow." In space, the battle raged on. Lieutenant Rachel Blake led a daring counterattack against a group of Krill bombers attempting to breach Earth's inner defenses. Her ship zigzagged through the chaos, drawing enemy fire away from the orbital platform. Behind her, a squadron of human fighters followed closely, picking off stragglers and disrupting the Krill formation. Rachel's communications channel crackled with static as one of her teammates reported in. "We've got bogeys on our tail," the pilot shouted. "Quest assistance. Hold position," Rachel replied. "I'm coming." With expert precision, she spun her ship around and unleashed a volley of missiles at the pursuing Krill. The explosions lit up the void, scattering the enemy fighters and giving her team a brief reprieve. Over the comms, cheers erupted once again, but Rachel didn't join in. She knew the fight was far from over. The Krill were too numerous, too determined. Humanity's only hope lay in the shield and the courage of its defenders as the hours passed. The tide began to shift. Though outnumbered, Earth's forces fought with unmatched skill and determination. Pilots like Kevin Foster pushed themselves to their limits, executing maneuvers that defied logic and physics. Drones augmented their efforts, targeting weaknesses in the Krill fleet with ruthless efficiency. Slowly but surely, the invaders' numbers dwindled, but the cost was high. Ships burned in the darkness, their crews lost forever. Casualties mounted on both sides, and the strain began to show. Even the most experienced pilots struggled to maintain focus as fatigue set in. Kevin felt the exhaustion creeping up on him, his movements growing sluggish. Still, he refused to give up. Every second he stayed in the fight was another second. Earth had to prepare for the next wave. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Krill fleet began to retreat. Their losses were severe, and their mission to disable Earth's defenses had failed. The energy shield stood firm, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and resilience. As the last of the enemy ships disappeared into the void, cheers erupted. Across the fleet, pilots hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. Back on Earth, civilians poured into the streets, celebrating the hard-fought victory. But amidst the jubilation, there was also sorrow. Too many lives had been lost. Too much sacrifice demanded. General Carter addressed the fleet over the comms, his voice heavy with emotion. "You did good today," he said, "but this isn't over. The Krill will regroup, and the Senate will send more. Stay ready." President Laura Hayes echoed his sentiment during a televised address to the world. "Today, we proved that humanity cannot be broken," she declared. "But our fight is far from finished. We must remain united, vigilant, and strong. Together, we will protect our home and secure our future." As the galaxy watched, humanity's resolve shone brighter than ever. They had faced annihilation and emerged victorious not through brute force, but through innovation, teamwork, and sheer willpower. The Krill had underestimated them, just as the Galactic Senate had. They would do so again at their peril. For now, Earth was safe. But the war for its survival was only beginning. Document Part 5, with only 10 days left before the Galactic Senate's ultimatum expired. Humanity prepared for its final stand. The orbital defense platform, now nearly complete, loomed in Earth's orbit like a silent guardian. Its massive structure gleamed under the sunlight, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Engineers worked tirelessly to integrate Alex Monroe's energy shield technology into the platform's systems. Knowing that failure was not an option, every second counted. Alex himself barely slept, spending long hours inside the platforms. Control center. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed from exhaustion, but he refused to slow down. Around him, technicians monitored readouts, adjusted settings, and ran simulations to ensure the shield would function as intended. Despite the pressure, there was a sense of quiet pride among the team. They were building something extraordinary, something that could change the course of history. President Laura Hayes decided it was time to reveal Earth's progress to the galaxy. She called for a live broadcast to be transmitted across the Galactic network, inviting representatives from every species in the Senate to witness what humanity had achieved. The message was clear. Earth was not surrendering, nor was it seeking conflict. Instead, it was offering a peaceful solution, a way to protect itself without resorting to violence. On the day of the broadcast, the entire world watched anxiously. In New Geneva, Laura stood in front of a holographic backdrop displaying images of the orbital platform and the shimmering blue dome of the prototype shield. Her voice was calm but firm as she addressed the galaxy. To the members of the Galactic Senate, and to all who question our place among the stars, we present this demonstration not as a threat, but as proof of our commitment to peace and innovation, she began. The energy shield you see here is capable of protecting an entire planet from harm. It does not kill, it defends. We believe this technology can benefit not just Earth, but all civilizations. Behind her, a simulation played out on screen, showing how the shield deflected incoming projectiles and energy blasts. The audience gasped collectively as the dome expanded around Earth, encasing the planet in a shimmering barrier visible even from distant star systems. It was a breathtaking sight, a symbol of hope and resilience. Reactions to the broadcast varied widely. Some alien delegates expressed admiration for humanity's creativity and resourcefulness. Others remained skeptical, dismissing the shield as a mere illusion or an act of provocation. The Arcturians, predictably, condemned the demonstration outright. Ambassador Velker addressed the Senate shortly after the broadcast, his tone icy with disdain. This so-called shield proves nothing except humanity's refusal to comply with reasonable demands, he declared. They have chosen defiance over cooperation, and thus they leave us no choice but to act. Despite Velker's harsh words, cracks began to form within the Senate. Neutral factions, impressed by Earth's achievement, openly questioned whether disarming humanity was truly necessary. Some argued that the shield demonstrated Earth's ability to protect itself responsibly, negating the need for aggressive intervention. Even among traditionally hostile species, whispers of doubt spread. Humanity's bold move had shifted the narrative, however slightly. Meanwhile, in deep space, Lieutenant Rachel Blake led a covert mission to sabotage the Krill mercenary supply lines. Accompanied by a small team of operatives, she infiltrated a convoy of cargo ships carrying weapons and fuel destined for the invasion fleet. The operation was perilous, requiring precise timing and stealth. Rachel's ship glided silently through the darkness, avoiding detection as her team planted explosives on key vessels. As the charges detonated, chaos erupted among the convoy. Explosions lit up the void, sending debris spiraling into space. The Krill scrambled to respond, their communications crackling with confusion and anger. Rachel's team slipped away undetected, their mission accomplished. Though the damage was not catastrophic, it succeeded in delaying the mercenary fleet's advance, buying Earth's precious time to prepare. Back on Earth, General Daniel Carter received word of the successful sabotage. He allowed himself a rare smile, though his expression quickly turned serious again. "Good work," he told Rachel when she reported in. "But don't think this will stop them. The Krill are persistent and they'll regroup soon enough." Nodded, understanding the stakes. "We've bought ourselves some breathing room, sir. Let's make sure we use it wisely." While the military focused on delaying the enemy, Earth's civilian population rallied behind their leaders. News of the energy shield's unveiling inspired widespread support for the government's stance. People took to social media, sharing videos and images of the glowing blue dome surrounding Earth. Hashtags like #EarthStrong and #DefendOurHome trended across platforms, uniting humanity in a shared sense of purpose. In cities worldwide, volunteers organized events to boost morale and raise funds for the war effort. Maria Lopez, the college student turned activist, spearheaded a campaign to collect supplies for soldiers. stationed aboard the orbital platform and other defensive installations. Every little bit helps, she told reporters during a press conference. Whether it's food, medicine, or just words of encouragement, we're all in this together. Kevin Foster, now officially assigned to a squadron of experimental drone fighters, felt the surge of unity firsthand. His fellow pilots, once strangers, had become like family. They spent hours practicing formations and strategies, determined to protect Earth at any cost. During downtime, they shared stories of home memories of loved ones, dreams for the future, and reasons why they fought. Kevin found strength in these moments, knowing he wasn't alone in his fears or hopes. As the deadline approached, tensions reached a fever pitch. The Krill fleet, having recovered from the sabotage, resumed its advance toward Sol System. Intelligence reports indicated that they would reach Earth's borders within days. General Carter ordered Earth's fleet to deploy along predetermined defensive lines, using decoy ships and drones to create the illusion of greater numbers. The goal was simple: delay the invaders until the energy shield was fully operational. On the ground, President Hayes made one last attempt to negotiate peace. She reached out directly to neutral factions within the Senate, appealing for mediation. "We do not seek war," she said during a private transmission to Ambassador Quinn. "But neither will we surrender our freedom. Help us find a way forward before it's too late." Quinn listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. "Your actions have earned respect, Madam President," he replied. "But convincing the hardliners won't be easy. Time is short." Though Quinn couldn't promise success, he agreed to advocate for a ceasefire. Meanwhile, Earth braced for impact. On the 9th day, Alex Monroe and his team completed the final calibration of the energy shield. The system hummed softly as it powered up, enveloping Earth in a protective dome. For the first time, the full-scale shield was active and functioning perfectly. Cheers erupted in the control center as technicians hugged each other, tears streaming down their faces. Alex sank into a chair, overwhelmed by exhaustion and relief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had built a shield capable of defending an entire planet. But there was no time to celebrate. The Krill fleet had entered Sol System, their ships dark and menacing against the backdrop of space. General Carter issued orders to engage, and Earth's forces moved into position. Pilots like Kevin Foster climbed into their cockpits, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Behind them, the glowing blue dome of the energy shield stood as a beacon of hope and defiance. As the enemy drew closer, humanity held its breath. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. Document Part 4. Lieutenant Rachel Blake sat in a dimly lit briefing room at the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva. Her mission to infiltrate Arcturian space had been successful, but the cost of her discovery weighed heavily on her mind. The data she had retrieved confirmed what many had feared: the Galactic Senate's ultimatum was nothing more than a smokescreen for an invasion. The Arcturians, along with their allies, were preparing to strike Earth if it refused to disarm. Worse still, they had hired the Krill, a brutal mercenary race notorious for their efficiency and cruelty. To lead the assault, Rachel's report was met with stunned silence as President Laura Hayes and her advisors absorbed the gravity of the situation. General Daniel Carter leaned forward, his face grim. "This changes everything," he said, his voice low and measured. "If we comply, we're handing them the keys to our planet. If we resist, we'll be outnumbered and outgunned." Dr. Emily Ross nodded in agreement. "But we can't just sit back and wait for them to attack. We need to act now, show them that humanity isn't an easy target." President Hayes took a deep breath, her expression resolute. "And that's exactly what we'll do." "Alex, how close are you to finishing the energy shield?" Alex Monroe, seated at the far end of the table, glanced up from his tablet. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, but there was a spark of determination in them. "The prototype is ready for deployment around the orbital platform," he replied. "It's not perfect, but it should hold against most attacks. The smaller shields for cities and installations are already online in key locations." Laura nodded, her mind racing. "Dud. Activate the city shields immediately." We'll use them as a demonstration to show the galaxy that we're prepared. To defend ourselves without resorting to violence. General, I want you to position our fleet strategically. Make sure every ship is battle-ready." Carter saluted sharply. "Understood, Madam President." As the meeting concluded, Rachel felt a mix of relief and unease. She had done her part, but the real test was yet to come. Outside, the streets of New Geneva buzzed with activity. People hurried about their daily lives, unaware of the storm brewing in the stars above. For now, the government kept the details of Rachel's mission classified, fearing panic if the full extent of the threat became public knowledge. In space, construction on the orbital defense platform continued at a frenetic pace. Automated drones zipped back and forth, welding massive sections of metal into place while human crews performed delicate tasks that required precision beyond the capabilities of machines. The structure was enormous, dwarfing even the largest starships. An Earth's fleet, when completed, would serve as both a symbol of humanity's ingenuity and a bulwark against any incoming attack. Alex Monroe spent most of his time aboard the platform, overseeing final preparations for the energy shield. He worked closely with engineers and technicians, troubleshooting issues and fine-tuning the system. Despite the immense pressure, he found solace in the work. Each problem solved brought him one step closer to achieving something extraordinary, something that could change the course of history. One evening, as Alex stood on the observation deck of the platform, he gazed out at Earth below. From this vantage point, the planet looked serene, its blue oceans and swirling clouds a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding in orbit. He thought about all the people down there, billions of lives depending on him and his team to succeed. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but it also fueled his determination. "We've got this," he muttered under his breath. "We have to." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kevin Foster trained tirelessly alongside other cadets in Earth's Defense Forces. The young pilot had thrown himself into his studies and flight simulations, determined to prove himself worthy of serving during such a critical time. Every day brought new challenges, maneuvering through asteroid fields, engaging enemy ships in mock battles, and mastering the controls of experimental drone fighters designed to augment human pilots. Kevin's instructors pushed him hard, knowing that the skills he learned could mean the difference between life and death in a real conflict. Though exhausted, Kevin relished the opportunity to contribute. He often stayed late in the simulator bay, practicing maneuvers long after his classmates had gone home. His dedication did not go unnoticed. His superiors began considering him for advanced roles within the fleet. During one particularly grueling session, Kevin's instructor, Captain Lisa Grant, approached him with a serious expression. "You've shown great potential, Foster," she said. "But remember, flying isn't just about skill, it's about staying calm under pressure. Keep your head clear, and you'll do fine." Kevin nodded, grateful for the advice. As he climbed out of the simulator, he glanced at the clock on the wall. It was late, but he didn't feel tired. Instead, he felt alive, driven by the knowledge that his efforts might help protect Earth. Somewhere out there, among the stars, humanity's future was being decided, and he wanted to be part of it, back on Earth. Protests intensified as rumors of the impending invasion began to spread. Government officials tried to maintain order, urging citizens to remain calm and trust in their leaders. But fear and uncertainty simmered beneath the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. In major cities, crowds gathered outside government buildings, demanding answers and action. Some called for peace talks, while others insisted on standing firm against the Senate's demands. Among the protesters was a young woman named Maria Lopez, a college student who had become deeply involved in grassroots activism. Maria believed strongly in diplomacy, but recognized the need for strength. She organized rallies and distributed flyers calling for unity and resilience. "We can't let them divide us," she told anyone who would listen. "Together, we're stronger than anything they can throw at us." Her words resonated with many, inspiring hope amid the growing tension. Volunteers joined her cause, helping to organize food drives, community support networks, and educational campaigns about Earth's technological advancements. Even small acts of kindness mattered during times like these. They reminded people that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons or shields, but in its compassion and cooperation. As the days passed, diplomatic efforts intensified. Neutral factions within the Galactic Senate grew increasingly vocal, criticizing the aggressive stance of the Arcturians and their allies. Ambassador Quinn, representing one such faction, proposed an emergency summit to mediate the conflict. Though skeptical of Earth's intentions, many delegates agreed that a full-scale war would destabilize the galaxy and harm innocent species caught in the crossfire. President Hayes welcomed the opportunity, instructing her envoys to engage constructively. In the negotiations, Earth's representatives emphasized humanity's commitment to peaceful coexistence and highlighted the progress made on the Energy Shield project. They argued that disarming would leave Earth vulnerable to threats beyond the Senate's control, undermining the very stability the Senate claimed to seek. Behind closed doors, however, tensions remained high. Hardline factions dismissed Earth's arguments as excuses to retain military power. While moderates struggled to find common ground, the summit dragged on for days, with little progress toward resolving the crisis. Time was running out, and the Senate's deadline loomed ever closer. On the eve of the summit's conclusion, General Carter convened a meeting with Earth's top military commanders. Intelligence reports indicated that the Krill mercenaries were massing near the edge of Sol System, preparing for an imminent strike. Carter knew that Earth's defenses were still incomplete, leaving critical vulnerabilities exposed. "We need to buy ourselves more time," he said firmly. "If we can delay their advance, it might give Alex and his team the chance they need to finish the shield." The plan was risky, but necessary. Earth's fleet would deploy decoy ships and drones to create the illusion of a larger force, drawing the Krill away from strategic targets. At the same time, covert operatives would sabotage supply lines and communications, further slowing the enemy's advance. It was a desperate gamble, but it offered a slim hope of survival. As the meeting adjourned, Carter turned to Rachel Blake, who had volunteered to lead one of the sabotage missions. "You've already done more than anyone could ask," he said, quietly, "but I need you to do one more thing. Can you handle it?" Rachel met his gaze, her jaw set with determination. "I'll do whatever it takes," she replied. That night, as Rachel prepared for her next mission, she reflected on everything that had led her here. From her early days as a pilot in training to her harrowing journey through Arcturian space, she had always believed in humanity's potential to rise above adversity. Now, as the galaxy teetered on the brink of war, she found herself at the center of the storm. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would not go quietly into the night. Far above Earth, the orbital defense platform cast a faint glow against the darkness of space. Workers scrambled to complete the final touches, their movements illuminated by the soft hum of machinery. Below, the planet slept, oblivious to the sacrifices being made in its name. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the cosmos, enemies gathered, ready to strike. Humanity was ready to fight, to innovate, and to endure. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Document. Part 3. Lieutenant Rachel Blake's ship streaked through the darkness of space, its engines roaring as she pushed it to the limit. Behind her, Arcturian fighters closed in, their weapons firing bursts of blue energy that narrowly missed her hull. The stolen data-encrypted files detailing the Senate's invasion plans was safely stored in her ship's memory banks. But Rachel knew it wouldn't matter if she didn't make it back to Earth. Her heart pounded as she weaved between asteroids and debris fields. Using every trick she had learned during her years of training, Rachel's mind raced. She had trained for high-stakes missions like this one, but nothing could fully prepare her for the reality of being hunted by an alien fleet. Her hands gripped the controls tightly, sweat forming on her brow despite the cool air inside the cockpit. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and it would all be over. But giving up wasn't an option. Earth needed the information she carried, and she was determined to deliver it no matter the cost. As the pursuit intensified, Rachel activated a decoy drone, a small device designed to mimic the signature of her ship. With a flick of a switch, the drone shot off in the opposite direction, drawing some of the enemy ships away. It was a risky gamble, but it worked. Several of the Arcturian fighters broke off to chase the decoy, leaving Rachel with just enough breathing room to slip into a nearby nebula. The swirling clouds of gas and dust provided cover, masking her ship from sensors and visual detection. For several tense minutes, Rachel drifted silently through the nebula, her systems running at minimal power to avoid detection. She listened carefully to the comms chatter of the pursuing ships, trying to gauge whether they had lost her trail. When the voices faded and the scans showed no signs of movement nearby, she allowed herself a brief moment of relief. But there was no time to celebrate. She still had a long journey ahead, and every second counted. Back on Earth, Alex Monroe and his team were making steady progress on the Energy Shield project. The prototype had passed its initial tests with flying colors, proving that the concept was viable. Now, the challenge was scaling it up to protect an entire planet. This required not only technological innovation, but also immense resources, materials, manpower, and energy supplies that strained Earth's capabilities. Alex spent most of his waking hours in the lab, poring over schematics and coordinating with engineers. His workspace was cluttered with holographic displays, notebooks filled with scribbled equations, and half-empty cups of coffee. Despite the exhaustion, he felt a surge of excitement every time they solved another problem or achieved another milestone. For the first time in weeks, he dared to believe that humanity might have a fighting chance. The orbital defense platform, where the full-scale shield would eventually be deployed, was under construction in Earth's orbit. Massive sections of the structure were being assembled by automated drones and human crews working around the clock. From the surface, the platform looked like a glittering web of metal and glass, slowly taking shape against the backdrop of space. It was a monumental undertaking, one that required unprecedented cooperation between nations and corporations. General Daniel Carter oversaw the military aspects of the operation, ensuring that Earth's defenses were ready for any scenario. He coordinated with fleet commanders, reviewed contingency plans, and inspected installations across the globe. Though outwardly calm, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Senate's deadline loomed large, and the threat of war grew more tangible with each passing day. President Laura Hayes, meanwhile, focused on rallying support both domestically and internationally. She held meetings with world leaders, addressed the public in televised speeches, and reached out to neutral factions within the Galactic Senate. Her goal was to buy as much time as possible while preparing for the worst-case scenario. Diplomacy was fragile, but she believed firmly that humanity's strength lay not just in its technology or its armies, but in its unity. In New Geneva, protests continued to dominate the streets. The debates raging in government chambers spilled over into public discourse, dividing communities and families. Some argued passionately for peace, believing that compliance with the Senate's demands was the only way to avoid catastrophe. Others insisted that humanity must stand firm, refusing to surrender its autonomy or its dignity. The tension was palpable, and emotions ran high. Among the protesters was Kevin Foster, the young cadet who dreamed of becoming a pilot. He attended rallies regularly, listening to speeches and joining marches. At first, he had been unsure of what to think about the crisis, torn between fear of war and pride in his species. But as he watched people come together to voice their beliefs, he began to feel a sense of purpose. Whether humanity chose peace or defiance, Kevin wanted to play a role in shaping its future. One evening, after a particularly heated demonstration, Kevin found himself sitting on a park bench with a group of fellow cadets. They talked late into the night, sharing their hopes and fears about what lay ahead. "I don't know what's going to happen," Kevin admitted, staring up at the stars. "But I want to be part of it. Whatever happens, I want to help." His friends nodded in agreement. Like Kevin, they were eager to contribute, even if they weren't sure how. The uncertainty weighed heavily on them, but it also fueled their determination. They knew that the decisions made in the coming days would shape not just their lives, but the destiny of their entire species. As Rachel Blake emerged from the nebula, she set a course for Earth. Her ship was battered and low on fuel. but she had succeeded in retrieving the critical intelligence. The files she had downloaded painted a chilling picture. The Galactic Senate had already begun mobilizing forces for an invasion. If humanity refused to disarm, the attack would come swiftly and mercilessly. Worse still, the Senate had hired mercenaries, the Krill, a ruthless race known for their brutality, to enforce compliance. Rachel transmitted the data to Earth's command center as soon as she entered communication range. Within hours, President Hayes and her advisors were reviewing the evidence. The implications were clear. The ultimatum was a trap, and surrendering would leave Earth defenseless against an inevitable assault. Laura clenched her fists as she studied the reports, anger and frustration bubbling beneath her composed exterior. "They've left us no choice," she said finally. "We'll show them what humanity is capable of." With the new intelligence in hand, Earth's leadership accelerated. Their preparations? General Carter ordered increased patrols along Earth's borders and reinforced key defensive positions. Dr. Emily Ross worked tirelessly to improve Earth's scientific capabilities, developing countermeasures to neutralize enemy technologies, and Alex Monroe redoubled his efforts on the energy shield, knowing that its success could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Despite the mounting pressure, moments of hope began to emerge. Neutral factions within the Galactic Senate, alarmed by the aggressive stance of the Arcarians and their allies, reached out to Earth privately. These ambassadors expressed concern about the escalating tensions and offered to mediate negotiations. While their intentions were unclear, some may have simply sought to avoid conflict, while others genuinely admired humanity's resilience. Their outreach provided a glimmer of optimism. President Hayes seized the opportunity. Envoys to engage with these neutral parties. Diplomatic channels buzzed with activity as Earth's representatives worked to build alliances and sway opinions. Every conversation, every meeting, brought the possibility of finding common ground or at least delaying the Senate's plans. At the same time, Earth scientists and engineers achieved another breakthrough. Alex and his team successfully tested a smaller version of the energy shield, capable of protecting individual cities or military installations. Though not as ambitious. As the planetary-scale design, it demonstrated the technology's potential and boosted morale among the population. News of the achievement spread quickly, inspiring pride and confidence in humanity's ability to innovate under pressure. As the days ticked down toward the Senate's deadline, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Humanity stood at the edge of a precipice, facing choices that would define its place among the stars. Would it bow to intimidation, sacrificing its freedom for the illusion of peace? Or would it rise to meet the challenge, proving itself worthy of respect and equality? In the skies above Earth, the orbital defense platform grew larger and more imposing with each passing day. In laboratories across the planet, scientists worked feverishly to refine their inventions. And in the hearts of ordinary people, a quiet determination took root. No matter what the future held, humanity was ready to face it head-on. Rachel Blake, now safely back on Earth, watched the news reports with a mixture of pride and apprehension. She had done her part, risking everything to bring vital information home. Now, it was up to the rest of humanity to decide how to use it. As she stared out at the horizon, she whispered a silent vow. "We're not backing down." Document. Part 2. The debate over the Senate's ultimatum raged on Earth. Spreading from the highest levels of government to the streets of cities and towns across the planet. In New Geneva, President Laura Hayes convened another emergency meeting with her advisors, but this time the atmosphere was heavier, more charged. The weight of the decision ahead pressed down on everyone in the room. Each person brought their own perspective, their own fears, and their own hopes for the future. General Daniel Carter stood near a large holographic display, showing maps of Earth's defensive positions and fleet deployments. His arms were crossed, his expression grim. "If we refuse to disarm, we're looking at war," he said bluntly. "And not just with one species, this could pull in half the galaxy. We don't have the numbers or the resources to fight that kind of battle." Dr. Emily Ross, seated at the table with a tablet in hand, shook her head. But disarming isn't an option either. Once we give up our weapons, we lose our ability to protect ourselves. What happens when the next threat comes along? Will we beg the Senate for help then? Laura Hayes listened carefully, her fingers drumming lightly on the polished surface of the conference table. She understood both sides of the argument. Compliance would avoid immediate conflict, but it would also leave Earth vulnerable. Defiance might rally humanity's spirit, but it could also provoke a devastating attack. For now, she remained quiet. Letting the discussion unfold, Alex Monroe, still adjusting to his newfound role as a key figure in humanity's response, chimed in hesitantly. What if we focus on showing them what we can do instead of what we won't do, he suggested. Energy Shield Project is our best chance to prove that we're not dangerous. If we can get it working in time, maybe it will change their minds. General Carter frowned. It's a big if, Alex. Even if you pull off a miracle and finish the shield, there's no guarantee they'll back down.
As some of these alien factions
Aren't interested in reason, they're looking for excuses to crush us. But it's better than nothing, Alex insisted.
Nice.
His voice grew firmer as he spoke. We can't just roll over and let them dictate our future. If we show them something amazing, something they've never seen before, it might buy us enough time to find a real solution. Laura nodded slowly. I agree with Alex. We need to try everything we can before resorting to violence, surrender. But we also need to prepare for the worst-case scenario. General, I want you to start reinforcing our defenses. Make sure every ship, every station, and every soldier is ready for action. Emily, keep pushing forward with the science teams. Alex Shee turned to him with a steely gaze. Work day and night if you have to. This shield is our ace in the hole. As the meeting concluded, the tension lingered in the air. Outside, the protests continued to grow louder. Thousands of people filled the streets, their voices echoing through the city. Some carried banners reading peace over pride, while others held signs that said stand strong for Earth. The divide between those who wanted peace at any cost and those who believed in standing firm was becoming impossible to ignore. Among the protesters was Kevin Foster, a young cadet training to become a pilot in Earth's Defense Forces. He had joined the demonstrations not because he fully understood the complexities of galactic politics, but because he felt a deep sense of duty to his home. Standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers, chanting slogans, and listening to impassioned speeches gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. Kevin wasn't alone in his enthusiasm. Many of the protesters were young, idealistic, and eager to defend Earth's honor. They saw the Senate's ultimatum as an insultant attempt to strip humanity of its dignity. Older generations, however, were more cautious. Veterans of past conflicts remembered the horrors of war and urged restraint. They argued that survival was more important than pride, even if it meant making painful compromises. Back in the UN headquarters, Lieutenant Rachel Blake prepared for her mission. Her small, sleek fighter craft was being loaded with advanced surveillance equipment designed to bypass Arcturian security systems. Rachel knew the risks involved. Arcturian space was heavily guarded, and detection would mean certain capture or death. But she also knew how critical her mission was. Without solid intelligence, Earth's leaders would be flying blind into a dangerous situation. Rachel spent hours studying star charts and reviewing data on Arcturian communication networks. She memorized escape routes and contingency plans, knowing that even the smallest mistake could doom her mission. As she suited up in her flight gear, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. Like so many others, she had grown up dreaming of exploring the stars. Now, those dreams had transformed into something far more serious, a responsibility to protect her world. Before leaving, Rachel met briefly with General Carter. The older man looked her in the eye, his expression unreadable. You know what's at stake here? He said quietly. If you succeed, you'll give us a fighting chance. If you fail, ... double quotes, he trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid. I won't fail, Rachel replied firmly. No, her voice didn't waver, though her heart raced beneath her chest. With a final nod, she climbed into her ship and launched into orbit, disappearing into the vastness of space. Meanwhile, Alex Monroe worked tirelessly on the Energy Shield project. His lab, located in a secure underground facility, buzzed with activity. Teams of engineers and scientists collaborated around the clock, testing components, running simulations, and troubleshooting issues. Despite the pressure, Alex found himself energized by the challenge. Every breakthrough brought them closer to proving humanity's worth not just to the Senate, but to themselves. One evening, as Alex reviewed a set of test results, he noticed something unusual. A minor fluctuation in the shield's energy output caught his attention. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, but upon closer inspection, he realized it could indicate a potential flaw in the design. If left unaddressed, the issue might cause the entire system to collapse under stress. Summoning his team, Alex explained the problem and proposed a solution. "We need to reinforce the stabilizers," he said. "It'll slow us down, but it's better than risking failure when it matters most." The team agreed, and work resumed with renewed urgency. Hours turned into days, and days into weeks. Sleep became a luxury few could afford, but no one complained. They all shared the same goal: to protect Earth and ensure its place among the stars. While Alex and his team labored in secrecy, President Hayes addressed the public in a televised speech. Standing behind a podium adorned with the Earth insignia, she spoke directly to the billions watching around the globe. "My fellow humans," she began, her tone calm yet resolute. "We stand at a crossroads. The Galactic Senate has issued an ultimatum, demanding that we disarm and submit to their authority. But we are not a people who bow to fear or intimidation. We are explorers, innovators, and survivors. Together, we will find a way to overcome this challenge and secure our future." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring hope in some and skepticism in others. Critics accused her of recklessness, arguing that defiance would only lead to disaster. Supporters praised her courage, calling her a true leader in humanity's darkest hour. Regardless of opinion, one thing was clear: the eyes of the galaxy were fixed on Earth, waiting to see what it would do next. As the days passed, tensions mounted. Reports surfaced of increased military activity near Earth's borders. Alien ships, belonging to species sympathetic to the Senate's cause, began patrolling contested regions of space. Diplomatic channels grew strained, with negotiations breaking down almost as quickly as they started. It seemed that no matter what Earth did, conflict was inevitable. Yet amidst the uncertainty, glimmers of hope emerged. Quietly, behind closed doors, ambassadors from neutral factions reached out to Earth's diplomats. They expressed concern about the Senate's aggressive stance and hinted at a willingness to mediate. These overtures were tentative, fragile, but they offered a lifeline or chance to avoid outright war. President Hayes seized the opportunity, instructing her envoys to pursue dialogue wherever possible. At the same time, she doubled down on preparations for the worst. Earth's orbital defense platforms were upgraded, its fleets reorganized, and its soldiers trained for the challenges ahead. Humanity was preparing to face whatever the galaxy threw its way in the shadows. Lieutenant Rachel Blake approached Arcturian-controlled space. Her ship drifted silently through the void, cloaked and undetected. Ahead, she could see the faint glow of distant stars reflected off massive alien vessels. Her mission was perilous, but she reminded herself why she was doing it: for Earth, for humanity, and for the belief that peace was worth fighting for. As Rachel slipped past the first line of patrols, her instruments detected encrypted signals emanating from a nearby communications array. Carefully, she maneuvered her ship closer, activating the hacking program designed to infiltrate the network. The process was slow, painstaking, but eventually she gained access. What she discovered sent a chill down her spine. The Arcturians weren't just planning sanctions or isolation, they were preparing for invasion. Hidden within the data were detailed strategies for attacking Earth, including coordinates for weak points in its defenses and deployment schedules for MERS. Document. Part 1 in the year 2347. Humanity had reached a point in its history that no one could have imagined centuries before. The Earth was no longer just a planet of divided nations, but a united force among the stars. Humans had joined. The Galactic Senate, an interstellar council made up of advanced civilizations from across the galaxy. For decades, humanity worked hard to prove itself worthy of this position, building alliances and contributing knowledge, technology, and resources to the collective good of the galaxy. But despite these efforts, not everyone in the Senate welcomed humans with open arms. The Arcturians, a proud and ancient species known for their towering height and shimmering silver skin, were particularly wary of humanity. They saw humans as unpredictable, too quick to act without thinking, too eager to expand, and too willing to rely on weapons rather than diplomacy. While other alien races admired humanity's creativity and determination, the Arcturians viewed these traits as dangerous. To them, humans were like children playing with fire, unaware of the destruction they might cause if left. Unchecked, it all came to a head during a tense session of the Galactic Senate. The Grand Chamber, located on the neutral planet of Nexus Prime, buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of worlds gathered to discuss pressing matters affecting the galaxy. The room itself was a marvel of engineering, a vast dome filled with floating platforms, each representing a different civilization. Bright holograms projected images and data into the air, while translators ensured that every delegate could understand what was being said, no matter their language or biology. On this particular day, the atmosphere was unusually charged. The Arcturian ambassador, a stern figure named Velker, stood at the center of the chamber. His deep voice echoed through the space as he addressed the assembly. Honorable members of the Senate, he began, his words calm but laced with authority. We are here today to address a growing concern or threat to the stability of our galaxy. Humanity, though young and ambitious, has shown itself to be reckless and aggressive. Their rapid expansion into new territories, coupled with their reliance on militaristic solutions, poses a danger to us all. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some delegates nodded in agreement, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Ambassador Velker continued, unfazed. We have seen evidence of human warships patrolling contested regions. We've witnessed their refusal to demilitarize even after peaceful resolutions were reached. And now we learn of secret projects aimed at developing even more destructive weapons. Enough is enough. If humanity refuses to disarm voluntarily, then we must take action to ensure the safety of the galaxy. His speech sent shockwaves through the chamber. Many of the older, more established civilizations sided with the Arcturians, fearing that humanity's actions could destabilize the fragile peace they had worked so hard to maintain. Others, however, were hesitant. They recognized the value of having humans as allies, their innovative spirit, their adaptability, and their willingness to challenge the status quo. Still, the weight of Velker's arguments was undeniable. Back on Earth, news of the Senate's deliberations spread quickly. President Laura Hayes, a woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes and a commanding presence, watched the live feed from her office in New Geneva. She sat at her desk, flanked by two of her closest advisors, General Daniel Carter, a grizzled veteran of countless conflicts, and Dr. Emily Ross, a brilliant scientist who specialized in astrobiology. Together, they formed the core of Earth's leadership team tasked with navigating the complex challenges of galactic politics. This isn't just about disarming, Laura said, breaking the silence as the broadcast ended. Her tone was firm, yet tinged with frustration. They're trying to paint us as some kind of rogue element, dangerous and uncontrollable. It's ridiculous.
Ow!
General Carter leaned forward, his weathered face etched with concern. With respect, Madam President, it's not entirely baseless. We do have a reputation for being assertive. Our military presence in disputed areas hasn't exactly helped matters. But neither is sitting back and letting others push us around, Laura countered. Every time we've taken a stand, it's been because someone else started it. Are we supposed to roll over and play nice when it suits them? That's not how diplomacy works. Dr. Ross, who had been quietly observing the exchange, finally spoke up. There's another angle to consider, she said softly. This ultimatum isn't just about weapons, it's about control. If we give in, we lose our autonomy, become subject to their rules, their agendas. And once that happens, there's no going back. Laura nodded thoughtfully. She knew Emily was right. Disarming wasn't just a symbolic gesture. It was a surrender of power, but the consequences of refusing were equally daunting. The Galactic Senate wielded immense influence, and defying them could isolate Earth from vital trade routes, scientific collaborations, and diplomatic partnerships. Worse still, it could provoke outright hostility from those who already distrusted humanity as the three leaders debated their options. As protests erupted outside the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva, thousands of people had gathered, carrying signs and chanting slogans. Some demanded compliance with the Senate's demands, believing that avoiding conflict was worth any cost. Others vehemently opposed surrender, arguing that humanity had earned its place among the stars and should fight to keep it. Among the protesters was Alex Monroe, a young scientist whose work had recently caught the attention of top government officials. Alex was in his early 30s, with messy brown hair and a restless energy that made him seem perpetually on the verge of discovery. He had spent years developing cutting-edge technologies designed to protect Earth from external threats. Now, as he watched the chaos unfold, he felt a surge of determination. There had to be a way to resolve this crisis without giving up everything humanity had fought for. Later that evening, Alex found himself in a secure conference room deep within the UN complex. He had been summoned by President Hayes herself, along with a small group of experts handpicked to brainstorm solutions. As he took his seat, he noticed the tension in the room. Everyone understood the gravity of the situation they were running. Out of time. "Thank you all for coming," Laura began, her voice steady but urgent. "The clock is ticking. We have 30 days to respond to the Senate's ultimatum. Compliance isn't an option, it would leave us defenseless. But outright defiance risks war. So, I need ideas. What can we do to show the galaxy that humanity is not a threat, but a partner?" For several minutes, the room remained silent. Alex cleared his throat. "What if we showed them something they've never seen before?" he asked. "Something that proves we're capable of protecting ourselves without resorting to violence." Everyone turned to look at him, intrigued. "Go on, Laura," urged. "I've been working on a prototype energy shield," Alex explained. "It's still in the testing phase, but it has the potential to protect entire planets from harm. If we can scale it up and deploy it around Earth, we could demonstrate our commitment to peace while maintaining our security. It's a win-win." Ideas sparked immediate interest. General Carter raised an eyebrow. "How long would it take to make this happen?" "It won't be easy," Alex admitted. "But with the right resources and manpower, I think we can get it operational within the deadline." Laura considered the proposal carefully. It was risky. Building such a massive system in such a short amount of time would require unprecedented coordination and effort. But it also offered a glimmer of hope. If successful, it could change the narrative entirely, turning humanity's perceived weakness into strength. "All right," she said finally. "Let's move forward with this plan. General Carter, I want you to oversee logistics and allocate whatever resources Alex needs. Dr. Ross, coordinate with the science teams to accelerate development. And Alex," she fixed him with a piercing gaze, "don't let me down." Alex nodded, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. This was the opportunity of a lifetime, but failure was not an option. As the meeting adjourned, he couldn't shake the sense that the fate of humanity rested squarely on his shoulders. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the wheels of intrigue were already turning. Known to Earth's leaders, covert operatives were dispatched to gather intelligence on the Senate's true intentions. Among them was Lieutenant Rachel Blake, a fearless pilot with a knack for slipping past enemy defenses. Her mission was simple yet perilous: infiltrate Arcarian-controlled space and uncover any hidden plans related to the ultimatum. As Rachel prepared for her journey, she couldn't help but feel a pang of unease. The stakes were higher than ever, and the margin for error was razor-thin. But like so many others scattered across the stars, she was driven by a single, unshakable belief that humanity's future was worth fighting for. And so, as the countdown to the Senate's deadline began, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shape the destiny of an entire galaxy.